Have you ever stopped to wonder how the largest democratic political party in the world came into existence? This is not just a question, but a journey into India's fascinating past, where a significant chapter of its history was written. A chapter that shaped the course of the nation, the formation of the Indian National Congress. Picture this, the late 19th century, a time when India was under the heavy yoke of British colonial rule. The air was thick with resentment, and the pulse of the nation was marked by an undercurrent of unrest. The Indians were being subjected to oppressive laws, economic exploitation, and a blatant disregard for their traditions and sentiments. But amid this tumultuous environment, seeds of change were being sowed. The educated Indians, having tasted the fruits of Western education, began to question the British rule. They recognized the need for a unified political platform that could voice the grievances of the Indian people against the British rule. The urgency for such a platform was further heightened by the Ilbert Bill controversy of 1883, which exposed the racial prejudices of the British and sparked widespread anger among the Indians. The stage was ripe for a political organization that could represent the Indian community, articulate their issues, and negotiate with the British. This led to a gathering of 72 delegates from all over the country in Bombay on the 28th of December 1885. The purpose? To form an organization that would unite Indians from different regions, religions, and social classes towards a common goal, to attain self-government within the British Empire. This meeting marked the genesis of a political entity that would soon become a crucial force in India's struggle for freedom, the Indian National Congress. This genesis was not just about the formation of a party. It was the birth of a movement, a revolution that would change the destiny of a nation. The stage was set, and the Indian National Congress was about to take its first breath. In the heart of the bustling city of Bombay, history was about to be made. Picture this. The year is 1885. The air is thick with anticipation and the spirit of change. In the midst of this energetic cityscape, a group of 72 delegates gathered in Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit College for a meeting that would mark the beginning of a new era. They hailed from different corners of the nation, representing a diverse range of professions. There were teachers, lawyers, journalists, businessmen, and even a few government officials. But despite their distinct backgrounds, they were united by one common cause: the desire to voice the concerns of the Indian people. Leading them was a man named Alan Octavian Hume, a retired British civil servant with a deep love for India and its people. Hume had observed the growing discontent among Indians towards British rule and recognized the need for a platform where these grievances could be peacefully expressed. Thus, the Indian National Congress was born. Now, let's delve into the key points addressed in this pivotal first session. The delegates discussed a variety of issues, from the representation of Indians in government services to the need for public health reforms. They also debated the importance of spreading education across the country and championed the cause of civil rights. One of the most critical issues they raised was the need for Indians to have a greater say in their own governance. This issue in particular struck a chord with the people, echoing their growing frustrations with British rule. It marked the beginning of a sustained effort to demand self-rule, an effort that would evolve into a full-fledged freedom movement in the coming decades. The first session of the Indian National Congress may not have resulted in any immediate changes, but it did something far more significant. It brought together a group of passionate individuals committed to the cause of India's freedom and gave them a platform to voice their concerns. It created a sense of unity and purpose among India's diverse population, igniting the spark of a revolution. The first seeds of a powerful movement were sown, and they were about to sprout into a revolution. After its inception, the Congress started its journey with a moderate approach. This phase, spanning from 1885 to 1905, was characterized by a measured diplomatic stance towards the British government, led by key figures such as Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Gokhale, along with others, believed in the idea of constitutional agitation. They emphasized dialogue, persuasion, petitions, and public meetings to present their demands to the British. Their primary goal was to secure greater political representation and rights for Indians within the existing British framework. Their accomplishments were significant. They managed to raise political awareness among the educated Indian elite, They succeeded in bringing the Indian question to the British public's attention. Moreover, they influenced several pro-Indian reforms, such as the Indian Councils Act of 1892, which expanded the Indian Legislative Council's role. However, the moderate phase had its limitations. Their faith in the British sense of justice was often seen as naive. Their strategy was criticized for being elitist, focusing mainly on the educated classes and failing to mobilize the masses. They were perceived as too accommodating, too patient, and too slow in their demands for change. Gokhale once famously said, "What the country needs is a spirit of intense nationalism." This spirit, however, was seen by many as lacking in the moderate approach. Their diplomatic, patient methods were increasingly seen as ineffective in the face of British intransigence and indifference to Indian demands. Yet, it's essential to remember that this was a time of political infancy for India. The moderates were the pioneers, the first to organize a national political body. Their strategies, while seen as too soft by later generations, were in line with the realities of their time. Despite the limitations, the moderate phase laid the groundwork for the future of Indian politics. It was the starting point from which Indian nationalism would grow and evolve, eventually leading to the birth of a nation. The moderate phase was, in many ways, the first step on the long road to Indian independence. As the 20th century dawned, the Congress was about to take a radical turn. The period from 1905 to 1919 witnessed the Congress entering what is widely known as the Extremist Phase. This was a time when the party's approach shifted from moderate to radical, and it was during this phase that the Congress truly began to flex its muscles. The extremist phase was characterized by the rise of key leaders such as Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who is often referred to as the father of Indian unrest. Tilak, along with his contemporaries, believed that the methods of peaceful protests and petitions were not enough to secure India's freedom from British rule. They advocated for more assertive actions, including boycotting British goods and institutions, encouraging Swadeshi or indigenous industries, and promoting a sense of nationalism among the Indian people. The strategies adopted during this phase were more aggressive and confrontational. They included mass protests, strikes, and public demonstrations. The leaders of this phase believed in the principle of Swaraj or self-rule, and they were willing to use any means necessary to achieve this goal. This phase also saw the rise of various revolutionary groups who were ready to use violence as a means to achieve their ends. The extremist phase was a period of high tension and conflict, but it also played a crucial role in strengthening the resolve of the Indian people and fueling their desire for independence. The impact of this phase on the Indian freedom struggle was profound. It marked a significant shift in the mindset of the Congress and the Indian people. The moderate approach of seeking constitutional reforms was replaced by the demand for complete independence. The extremist phase of the Congress not only set the stage for the subsequent phases of India's freedom struggle, but also sowed the seeds of unity and nationalism among the Indian people. The extremist phase marked a significant turning point in the history of the Indian National Congress. So, what was the journey of the Indian National Congress from its formation to becoming the driving force of Indian politics? Well, it all began with the genesis of the Indian National Congress, or INC, in December of 1885. A modest gathering of 72 delegates from across the country, it was an event that would change the course of Indian history. The ANC was born out of a desire to have a unified voice for the Indian people, a platform to articulate their aspirations and grievances. The birth of INC marked the start of a movement, a journey towards self-rule. The party served as a beacon of hope for millions of Indians yearning for freedom. The initial years were marked by moderate leadership, which believed in constitutional agitation and peaceful negotiations. They sought reforms within the framework of British rule, advocating for greater representation of Indians in government services and legislative bodies. However, as the years passed, a group of young, passionate leaders emerged, challenging the moderate approach. They were the extremists, who believed in the doctrine of self-help and the revival of ancient Indian glory. They advocated for radical changes and were not afraid to use more assertive methods to achieve their goals. The INC, through its moderate and extremist phases, played a pivotal role in the Indian freedom struggle. It gave voice to the silent majority, fueling the spark of nationalism among the masses. It was instrumental in shaping public opinion against British rule, uniting diverse sections of society under a common banner of freedom. In retrospect, the formation and evolution of the INC marked a significant shift in Indian politics, from passive acceptance of colonial rule to active resistance and the quest for self-rule. The formation of the Indian National Congress was not just the birth of a political party, but the start of a journey towards India's independence. A journey that would ultimately lead to the dawn of a free and democratic India, a nation with its destiny in its own hands. Do like, share and subscribe our channel.